going to walk us through our starting with our victims here, so we'll hear some of their stories, and then I'm going to bring Jerry in to talk about what he saw that night and the really rather dramatic rescue that he was involved in to save one of their lives, which is an extraordinary kind of thing and a story that he ought to tell. Let's just start with, I think we'll start with Deamarus Burns, who, as I said, was trapped in the car. And then we'll go over to his mother, who was really talking with him right up to the moment he passed out. And then we'll go to Linda, because it all sort of fits into a sequence. That's sort of how the events took place that night. I'm just going to set the scene here, okay? So this is a roughly 7:05 to 7:15 time frame when this pipeline explodes. A huge cloud of gas erupts that's heavier than air, and it goes out sort of in the side. It freezes everything around it solid, leaves all these little sort of bits of frozen dirt and everything, carves a gigantic crater in the ground, and then spews this gas. The gas cloud makes its way down the contours of the hill above Satartia into the town. And that's when we start to see people having these very serious effects from the gas. Deamarus, if you would, can you hear me, buddy?
Yes, I can.
Okay, if you would take us through, as you do very well, where you were coming back from, what your day was turning into there, and what you were doing. That was a Saturday. You were coming back there in the evening, right? And just to put us in the picture and tell us what happened.
Well, February 22nd, I went out to my mom's house. You know, I'm a fisherman, so we was going fishing down there, and we decided to go to Vicksburg and go to fishing. And we rode up the road, had a nice time. We fished, and on our way back, I started smelling. We started smelling something. And we thought somebody had, passed gas in the car. But it wasn't that. And then all I heard was boom. And the pipeline had blew up. I mean, it was like a cloud of smoke. And we were riding through there. So I called my mother immediately. I called my mother. I said, Mom, I'm coming to get y'all. This gas line that blew up down here. And as we were on our way up the hill, which, like I said, the gas line blew up right beside us. We were on the dirt road, and all of a sudden the car went dead. And my cousin said, my car cut off. And immediately after that, we cut off. And we stayed under there from 7 to 11, from what I understand. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who went in there and got us out of there. I don't know who did anything. All I know is that my life was at an end right then. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much all I can say. If they didn't come and get us, we were surely dead. And again, all I can do is say thank you to these guys that came and got us, because I know they was up under more shit than we would. I ain't gonna say more shit than we would, but more stuff. I'm sorry, but more stuff than we were. But I mean, it was traumatizing, and right now I can't even walk a mile. You know, I've always had asthma, and this has really affected me because I can't think from here to there. I have to write stuff down for the next day. You know, I'm suffering from memory loss. It'd be people I know in the street that I know you, but I can't call your name. Yeah. And people just don't understand how I'm feeling, but it's bad. It really is. And it did knock me out of work since it happened. I tried to go back to work. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I work at a lumber mill, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we run. So, and by me having my asthma and everything, which I had that under control, but when this happened, I just can't do it. And like I said, I have to write down everything the day before. If I got to go take my baby to the doctor, I got to write that down the night before I go out. And I ain't never had to do that. So yes, it is traumatizing. Yep. But I do want to say, I got to say this before I lose train of thought. Thank y'all to everybody that came down there to get me, man. I swear to God, I love y'all. Thank y'all. And that, you know what? It's real. It's real, and it's here. And I just want to say thank you.
Okay. Jemris, that's great. Thank you for that. I just want to ask you a couple things. Do you remember waking up in the hospital afterwards?
Yes, I did. I saw my godmother in there. She was on a gurney. And when I woke up, I was like, where am I? I'm like, where am I at? I'm supposed to be at my mama's house. Where am I at? And Bray was in a gas explosion. I was like, what? Really? And I was in Vicksburg. I had extra minute. Don't get me wrong. I had, I can't tell you. I smelled like somebody's boo. That's all I can tell you. But I was bad off. I didn't know where I was until they came and told me what had happened. And then when they finally told me what had happened, I had to go to my uncle's house for a couple of days to sit there. He took us back to the hospital, which all that CO2 or whatever y'all saw, it was still in our system. I had to take an asthma treatment, everything. And it did affect me because my day-to-day pumps ain't working.
Yeah.
You know, I have to take a treatment every day now. You know, a little oxygen here and there, you know what I'm saying, just to keep myself going. And it's hurting because I'm used to working every day, and I can't.
You just one other thing. I'm sorry, Jemris, go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, I worry about my children because I'm on child support. Don't get me wrong, but I take care of my babies every day. But you know, it's not only financially, it's emotionally, because the emotion that you go through there and you was almost dead. You know, I'm just saying. I mean, and it didn't have nothing to do with us. We were coming back from having a great time, and then this falls out. And I'm gonna let my mom and my auntie tell y'all the rest of it because, you know, that's who been taking care of it. You know, I mean, we hadn't worked. We hadn't worked since it happened. I ain't been able to work. I've been trying to get disability or whatever, some to try to help me out, but it's not happening. But you know, I'm just glad to be alive. You know what I'm saying? But once again, thank you to the correspondents that came down there and got us out of there, because I couldn't be talking to y'all today if I wasn't.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if they did.
That's terrific. One other quick thing. So when you woke up in the hospital, did you tell me just about you had the stuff on your face and you'd lost control of yourself and all that, right? That was the condition you woke up?
Yes, sir. I woke up, I got up, and I saw my godmother. Mm-hmm. And that was Miss Picola Wright.
Uh-huh.
And she's 100 years old, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I saw her, and she said, DeBray, calm down. I said, where I'm at? And she was like, you at the hospital. And then everything just went from there. I started, my breathing wasn't right no way. But everything started from there. Once I saw her face, I kind of calmed down. And then my uncle came and got us, and we went to his house. We went to my uncle's house, and he took us back to the hospital. He said, because y'all ain't breathing right. So took all us back to the hospital. We was at Jackson University. Yeah, we was in University in Jackson. And we stayed there about 2 or 3 days, and didn't nobody find out where I was until my girlfriend came and got me. That's why my mama found out where I was, because I had told her earlier. I said, Mama, finna come get y'all, and we never made it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, DeBray. Thank you so much. And thank you for telling that story again. I know it's not an easy story to tell. Let's go over, if we could. So you woke up in that hospital. You said you were in the Vicksburg, and then later, I'm just clarifying it here. And then later, you were still sick, so they had to take you down to the big hospital hospital in Jackson, right? The University of Mississippi, the big teaching hospital. Is that right?
Okay. Hold up. I got it wrote down right here. Hold on. Now, actually, after we left the hospital, my uncle came and got us.
That's right. I remember now. Okay. And then you did some other
testing. Victor's dad came and got us.
Yeah,
I remember. He ended up taking us back to another hospital because the hospital that we was, there was so many people in there, they just let us go. They supposed to have kept us for 72 hours from what I'm understood, which I do got it wrote down.
That hospital it was crowded because of the accident that had happened. Right.
Yes, sir. So he ended up getting us from that hospital and then taking us to the university, which I had to have 3 breathing treatments. And I had to have 3 breathing treatments before I even left. And then so when you go home, you come back, you know. And I mean, that's just how it went, man. I don't know what happened down there. I knew it blew up, but after that, from what I've gathered from what went around with everybody, I'm just glad everybody's safe, you know what I'm saying? But I ain't saying I was fearing for my life because I didn't know what happened at the time. But now that I do know, I was almost gone.
Yeah. And you've had these memory problems since, right? You've had continuing memory problems.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I have to write down everything. If I say I'm gonna do something tomorrow, like if I just want to go out, I have to write this down. Okay. I wake up in the morning and be like, what I'm gonna do? Yeah. I mean, I have to write stuff down to figure out what I got going on. And then I will say this, like people you've been knowing all your life and you can't call their name, that's something.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Deameris. Let's just talk to Thelma here. Thelma Brown, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Okay, Thelma. Would you tell me a little bit from your perspective what happened that night, and starting with getting that phone call from your son, Deameris?
Yes, Deameris called me between I'll say I think I get it in my phone ready at 7:15, and he told me, he said, "Mama, I'm coming at you. We coming at you. The pipeline has blown up." And I'm right up to here, maybe like a half a mile from the pipeline. And so at that instant, he said his words would get the children. The children were still outside, so I ran and got the children. And I knew where he was. He was maybe like 5 minutes away from me. So I ran out, got the children, brought them in the house, and I came in my bedroom. And I always remember from things I've seen on TV to get a wet towel if you think you got a crack at the door and put it at the bottom of the door so can't nothing leak in. So I got all the kids. We got in my room, and I waited, and my sister Linda called me. She kept calling. She said, "You got to get out of there." The news spread fast that the pipeline had bust, and we were just there. We could not get out. We couldn't do anything. So I'm still waiting on Deameris and them to call, come and get me. And so I came in the house. My little grandson has asthma, so I immediately started giving him asthma treatment. I gave him a pump, and I even gave the 2 babies some because I didn't know what this gas was doing, and I wanted to keep their lungs open up. I immediately said, I kept telling people, I can't come out, I can't do this, I can't do that. I said, I'm stuck. People were running up and down the road trying to get in and out. My daughter was calling, and different people was trying to do, but they wouldn't let nobody in, wouldn't let nobody out. So all of a sudden I decided, well, Lord, I'm religious. Yes, I am. I'm a Christian. And I said, Lord, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these children and I'm going to get in this bed and I'm going to expect you to protect us as we do this. And I did not hear from my children. I was worried. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was worried, and you still got me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. And after that, I told the Lord, I said, Lord, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go to bed and we're gonna ask you to protect us. So later on, somebody called me and told me that they had found Deomaris, Andrew, and Tyrone, and they were on their way to Vicksburg by ambulance. So that was the way that went, and I'll let Linda take it from there, or whoever else. It was a horrifying experience, and I hope nobody ever have to go through this again. And it is God awful to think that I live right up the road, maybe a half a mile from a pipeline that they got has carbon monoxide poisoning right on the sign in the road. I walk through it every day because I walk a lot out here, and it's scary. And so if you all can do anything to prevent these things from happening in your area, do so. Congressman, representatives, whoever you can get to help you all, get it out. Let it be known that this is a bad thing, not only for our planet, but for the people on it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Thelma. Just very quickly, when you saw your son again, did you see what kind of shape was he in, and how did he compare to, the person he was before the accident happened? Just give us a little flavor of that, if you would.
Yes, I will. His mind is not good, like he said, and my sons were helping me to raise their brother's son. I have a 10-year-old that we've been raising together, so it went from a point where they could not help me, where we had to sit. I get a once a month income, so with me, got to take care of them, help with them, and my grandson has put us in a great strain. So I have watched them go from, I would say, from men to boys, because when you can't get out, those boys are used to working and doing things and making it happen, and you can't do it anymore. It's sad to see them in this shape. It really is, and it's a tearjerker.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, great. Thank you, Thelma. Thanks a lot. Okay, Linda, are you there? Linda Garrett?
I am.
Terrific.
I'm here.
Okay, how are you doing tonight, hon?
Okay, I'm fine.
Good. Would you tell us what happened that night, and just take it from when you started seeing something was wrong, and just go ahead from there?
Okay. Well, when I was back in my bedroom, and my daughter and granddaughter had went to get a pizza, so I was home alone. So I began to smell something, and so I called Thelma, and then that's when she told me about the brain, about they had said a pipeline had blown up. So I called 911, and they told me they would call me back. And so they didn't call me back, and I called them back. I say, well, do we need to be getting out of here? And so they told me they would call me back, but they never did. And I began to smell, it began to smell like an egg smell then, and it was coming in strong. And then by that time, my daughter and my grandbaby had made it in. And when my granddaughter, my daughter was beating on the table, and my grandbaby fell on the floor under the table. And so, apparently my memory and my mind or whatever, because my daughter had called 911, and she was telling them that, her daughter was on the floor, and they told us that there wasn't anything they could do. They could not send anybody in to get us, and we had to get out of there the best way we could. But by the grace of God, my grandbaby weighed about 200 and some pounds. And so we got her off of that floor, and we got her in that car. And so when we got out to Highway 3, well, on the way, I kind of just passed out. I just passed out. And I just thought that literally I was not going to make it. And I knew, you know, my grandbaby, because she was laid out on the seat, and they had told us they was going to have us an ambulance to meet us, but they didn't. And so when we got out on Highway 3, they did lead us down to like the Phoenix, and then we went on from there to Vicksburg. And when we got to Vicksburg, they did call when we got there and asked us where we was, and we told them that we was at the hospital. And so they saw us at the hospital, and they gave us breathing treatment, and they took our blood pressure, and they gave us something for pain because our heads were hurting. And they told us, they said, you can't go home, and we cannot keep you here. And so literally, we didn't know what we were going to do. And so we rode around Vicksburg, and so we finally found the hotel.
Yeah.
And
you had to stay there that night, and then you went back, I guess, the next day, and you still had that smell, that rotten egg smell, right, from the gas?
Right. And then when we got home, okay, we got to the post. They told us we could come home the next day. And so when we got to the post office, you know, and they didn't have any compassion or anything like that. They asked us, do you want somebody to, you know, go to see if it's safe for you to go in your house? And I'm like, you know, yeah, I want somebody to go. And then when we got there, you know, and so the, I guess, Scientologist or whatever he was, he went in first, and then, you know, he had his meter and it started going off, and he told us to get back out. So we got back out, and then he told us to come back in about 45 minutes. And so we actually had stayed away like an hour. And then we came back. He had raised all the windows and stuff in the house, and it was cool on that day. And so he told us, he said that, you know, we were going to have to keep the windows up until we go to bed. Yeah. And so, and we did, but then still we was afraid to let them down, because even on that was that Sunday. Even on that Monday, I kept smelling things. And then I had the butane, because we have butane. And so I called the butane company. I had them to come and check all, you know, make sure I didn't have any leaks. And so they told me, said, ma'am, it's nothing. Hey, it's nothing. You have no leaks. But it was just frightening. And the most frightening part about it was having somebody to tell you, you know, when you call 911, you expect some help. But when 911 tell you they can't help you, they can't send nobody in, you know, to me, that's a death sentence. And in the little town of Satartia, I mean, we didn't have any help. They had to wait until somebody come from Vicksburg before they could come up into those people's house and check to see if there was anybody still up in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They didn't have any equipment.
Yeah, they apparently, because of the carbon dioxide, as I understand it, they couldn't bring their vehicles through town because the carbon dioxide would have killed the engine. So they had to do this whole other thing. And it was very difficult for you, terrifying for you guys. Let me just ask you one other thing, Linda. Michaelin, your granddaughter, you say she fell on the floor, but she was actually unconscious, right? She fell unconscious, right. And then you had to carry her out because she was unconscious, you and your daughter, right? And then you passed out yourself en route to the hospital. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. All right, Linda. Terrific. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Let's go over now to Jerry. Jerry, are you still with us there?
I am.
Oh, terrific. Okay, Jerry. Would you take us through your experience that day, that night, and if you would, talk about what your thought process was as you heard about that there had been a leak, and what you knew and what you didn't know about what that gas was and how you guys dressed, let's say, for the occasion as firemen and why you made the choices you did. So we've got a lot of first responders listening in. So I'd like you to take us through that.
Yeah, so we actually, in Warren County, adjacent to Yazoo County, we have a mutual aid agreement with surrounding counties. As you know, if we need help, they come here. If we need help, we'll go there. We'd had a supervisor election, so we were at a gumbo cook-off, and one of the deputies had walked by me and said, "Hey, did you hear about the explosion in Yazoo City?" I said, "No, I didn't hear anything about it." So then I got to calling some of my contacts, and obviously Jack Willingham was one of those contacts. And all Jack could say was, "Yes, there's an explosion. Come on." We really didn't know anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, are you want one of the responders?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this the Emirates. Hey, look, man, thank you. I swear to God, thank you.
Yes,
now
sir.
you go
Yes,
on.
sir. I'm glad
want
to
say
hear your
thank you.
voice.
Okay.
I'm glad to hear you too, brother. I swear to God.
Yes,
but I'm
sir.
just saying thank you, and then I ain't gonna say nothing else. You continue with your go on.
Yes. Yes, sir. But anyway, we after that call with Jack, I kind of mobilized my crew, and it took us a minute to get what we needed together because we really didn't know what we were going into. Jack didn't have any idea what the explosion was. There was some thoughts of natural gas. There was thoughts of chlorine because apparently there's a water treatment plant somewhere in the area. So we didn't know what we were going into. So we brought all the air bottles we could bring and our side by side, and we met. I guess it was the Highway Patrol and some deputies at Phoenix Road and Highway 3. And that's when I asked the question, what do we have? And they still didn't know an answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided at that point, I think we were somewhere around 5 miles from the city of Satartia, or the town of Satartia. So we loaded up all the equipment that we could load up because we knew we were going to have to be on air as we walked through this town, being that we didn't know what the gas was.
Yeah.
So we did that, and me and two others loaded up, and we rode into town, and we searched door to door along with Deputy, I think Investigator Terry Gant, until he couldn't go anymore because he didn't have the breathing apparatus. He had to leave, and we searched, like I said, we searched every house in the town of Satartia looking for anybody. On the way out, we got to Highway 3 right there at the intersection of, I think it's 433. And we hadn't located anybody. So we radioed. Jack was in the command post. So we radioed to Jack that, we haven't found anybody. And he said, well, there's this little gravel road really close to where we think the explosion was. There's a handful of houses on that road. Can y'all check that road? So I looked at my two guys. I was like, well, this is it. It's, what do y'all want to do? And, there was probably some choice words in the conversation, but the end result was, screw it, let's go. That's what we're here for. We're here to find people. So I don't know the name of the road that we actually found the guys on, but at the intersection, yes, sir. At the intersection, there was a car that just had the headlights on and a door open. So we searched that car and nobody was in it. And we continued down the gravel road, whichever road that was. And our UTV started sputtering and dying. So I looked at the driver and, screamed at him. I said, whatever it takes, just keep this thing running. Even if it takes dropping us and going back towards fresh air. So he kept it running. And just as soon as I got that out of my mouth, he said, hey, we got a car. Well, we've run up on several empty cars, so we just assumed it was an empty car. And no sooner than we could assume that, he said, I got victims. So we popped off of the UTV, and we noticed that there were 3 unresponsive subjects, 2 in the front, 1 in the rear, that were unresponsive, breathing barely, but breathing. And the car was not running. All the windows were up and the doors were locked. So instantly, we started breaking glass, trying to remove the first victim out of the passenger side rear. The car was still in drive, so we had to secure the vehicle, make sure it wasn't going to roll off. We got the one victim, and I'm sorry, I don't know who was sitting where, from the back seat into the side-by-side. The original plan was to take him to safety, which was about 6 miles. And I said, no, we're not leaving these other two behind. We're going to take all of them. So we radioed to command that we had 3 victims, to have ambulances ready when we got back to transport them to the hospital. And as bad as I hate to say it, we stacked all 3 of them in the back, kind of one on top of the other, and headed back out. So we got them back to the ambulances, and they, the ambulance crew did what they do and took off, and we went back to Satartia and met up with some other guys from Yazoo County and actually went and pulled, I think, 14 or 15 other people out, which were conscious, but still in the plume, if you will, of where this gas was going. So we pulled all of them folks to safety and got them back. But obviously the 3 that were in the car were in the worst shape. And we really didn't know what the status was until way later in the wee hours of the morning.
Right. Yeah, you actually went by the hospital, right, to check on them?
I did. I know a lot of people at the Vicksburg Hospital, and by that time I think they'd been transferred or somebody had taken them to UMC.
Okay. And you guys, you talked about not knowing what the gas was and what the problem was. And if Jack were here, our emergency management director from Yazoo, he would run that down. But since he's not, I'm just going to make a couple observations here, Jerry, and correct me if I'm wrong. But what I understand is that Denbury, the company that ran the pipeline, never actually called. They knew ahead before anyone did that there had been a pipeline explosion, and that's documented in some of the records that we have. But they didn't notify anybody, so it left Jack Willingham and other people to try to figure out what the heck was going on. You didn't know whether it was natural gas, ammonia, or chlorine or what, right? And so you went down in full turnout gear in case it was explosive. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir. I think somebody else was trying to speak too.
I'm sorry. Is that right?
Yeah. I was.
Okay.
Mr. Zegart. All I'm saying is, we didn't know. It just happened.
You didn't know. You didn't know what the gas was either, right, Demarest?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
I did not know.
Okay. So what I wanted to say was, it's just sort of one of those things that a lot of people who live near pipelines, particularly if the pipeline's been there a few years, have no idea what exactly is going on with that pipeline. And that's an area,
Exactly.
I think, right?
Yes, sir.
And let me just say for
Jerry.
Yeah, let me just say this for Jerry's benefit, that and for Jerry to comment on that. If we're going to learn lessons from this, Jerry, what are some lessons that you think we should learn?
Well, and I don't know. And like I say, Jack and I are really good friends, and we have the same job, obviously, in different counties. But I think also in the same area of Highway 3 and 433, there's additional pipelines. There's not just that line that ruptured that night. There is some other gas lines in that area. So, yeah, if the ball was dropped by Denbury not reporting the leak, I can't speak on that. But when you have pipelines, usually you have more than one type of pipeline. So we really didn't know what we had. So we were treating it worst case scenario. So we, full turnout gear, air pack. Several of us had just went through a class on pretty much that, just survival in that situation. So you can't take a breath for hours. So, we swap bottles religiously as we're walking. That's why we had so much apparatus with us. But, I'd actually made the comment after the fact that I'm glad this pipeline doesn't run through Warren County.
Yeah.
Little did I know the same pipeline runs through Warren County. We've never been contacted by anybody. So if there's a lesson to be learned out of this, and it's just not a Denbury thing, it's a gas line or whatever thing,
Right.
you know, they need to get with these local response agencies on how to respond to their pipelines and
Right.
what those actions should be if it ruptures. So that's the lesson that I see out of this.
Right. So there hadn't been, in other words, you guys had some special training there in Mississippi at the fire academy there. They have a very big, very advanced one. So that helped you with your response here. But for most first responders, they're not going to really have had specific training in what a carbon dioxide rupture looks like and what the scenario is. Correct? I mean, that's not part of a training.
Absolutely not. We will have a basic firefighter will have basic hazmat training, and it does not get into individual gases and how to respond and how to act in those gases.
Okay. We're going to have to wrap it up here because I have to hand it back to Jess, but I just want to make it clear that the exchange you all heard before between Damaris Burns, our victim, and Jerry was about the fact that Jerry was one of the people who rescued him. And I guess Damaris didn't realize Jerry would be on this panel.
Oh, no, Damaris is here.
Yeah. So that's just to explain that these two folks hadn't actually met. So that's kind of a nice thing that came out of this. Now, we got go ahead, Damaris.
I would just love to see him. You know what I'm saying? I do a little bit of barbecue, you know what I'm saying? I can't try that, but I just want to say thank you.
Okay, my friend.
Absolutely. Like I said, when things calm down, let's get lunch. Let's actually meet. I'm all about meeting you. And
if it weren't for y'all, I wouldn't be here. And that's the truth. Y'all came down there. Y'all came down there when it didn't have to happen, but y'all did. Y'all came down there and saved our lives. I swear to God, I love you. And look, and I can't wait to see you face to face.
And that all starts well before this incident with Jack Willingham reaching out and creating these mutual aid agreements. So he understands where his staffing shortages are, and we understand where ours are, and we work together. So I'm just glad it was a good outcome. And you know, and Dan, to kind of recap on that, yes, this is a pipeline incident. I understand that. And I understand the focus is with pipeline, but just a few weeks ago, we had a train car derailment here with some of the same type stuff on it. And Interstate 20 runs through with some of the same type stuff on it. So these are not just isolated to pipelines, and people that live in the areas of rail tracks or interstates or anywhere where you have commercial traffic. And I think that's where Denbury or whatever needs to reach out to these residents and make them understand what's going through here and what some of the potential hazards are.
Okay.
Right.
We're going to have to end. Absolutely. Amen. We're going to have to end there so that I can turn it back to Jess, but I just want to say, I hope you guys have lunch and I'll buy the lunch. So let's do that sometime. All right. Thank you to all of our panelists. I really appreciate you. You guys have made this story happen and have worked diligently with me as a reporter for almost 2 years, and made some of these tremendous public statements and spoken to people and given of your time. So thank you very much, all of you, for being here. And we'll see you again. I'm going to ask if everybody would hit *6 if you're on a phone, so that we can do the rest of the evening here, and we'll just pick it up with you all later when I get a chance to talk to you another time. So thank you.
Thank you very much to all of our panelists. Thank you for sharing your stories. We promise you that we will take your stories and we'll make sure that helps protect lives here in Iowa and beyond. So we thank you a lot for that. I want to just do two quick questions, and then I'm going to close this out. And we have some really important action steps. So if you're still on, hang on for about 5 more minutes, and then we'll be done for the evening. But we have something we need your help with if we're going to stop these pipelines. But before that, I want to, one question that we saw repeated over and over and over again, Dan, that you may be able to help us with is, what's the financial and legal recourse for this? Is there any recourse? Who's responsible for what happened? Oh, you're muted, Dan.
All right, that's a real problem. There really was.
Hey, can I interrupt real quick before I jump off?
Go ahead.
Mr. Burns, you still on?
No, it looks like he's not, Jerry. I can get a message
Hey.
to him.
Yeah, Dan, if you wouldn't mind, just send him my cell phone number. You have it.
I do.
And just make sure he knows how to get in touch with me. Like I say, we have never met after the incident, so I'd love to meet him and the other two guys as well.
Happy to do it. I'll make sure it happens,
Yeah,
Jerry.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Okay.
All right, yes, sir.
All righty. Whoops. I just muted myself, didn't I? Hold on.
No, we can hear you.
Am I okay? Okay, good. So the unfortunate thing is there was really no investigation of any kind that we know of. We heard originally that the Pipeline Hazardous Materials and Safety Administration, which is part of the Federal Department of Transportation, was doing an investigation. We've never been able to find out if that happened or what the result was. As far as who takes care of the people who were injured, there's been, the only recourse for these folks has been a private lawsuit. Those so far have really not been filed because the plaintiffs' attorneys who are involved haven't seen that there'd be, let's say, a big enough recovery. In other words, there were no deaths. So it's more difficult to collect a substantial amount of money. So that's been stalled. There is, however, an active lawsuit in Texas that was filed by Mr. Burns' attorney, Deameris, who we heard from, and the two other fellows who were injured in that accident in their car and were overcome. But this is going to be a long process in the court. No federal agency has gotten involved, and the only interest by anybody in authority really has been from Congressman Ro Khanna, who we heard from at the top of this presentation, who's had some of our folks on his staff have heard their stories, and I helped facilitate that, which I was very happy to do. But that points to a gaping hole in the regulatory apparatus here, that there is no agencies, no agent of federal government, and in many states, and really nothing in the state government, where someone would come in and make sure that victims are taken care of, have long-term, monitoring, medical monitoring, or whatever it is, and some sort of, if the financial impacts were substantial for hospitals and medical care and all sorts of things. Those are all, just sort of, they're out there hanging in space. There really are no answers to that.
Thank you. It's very interesting because we hear the pipeline companies here in Iowa saying that they're going to take care of anything that goes wrong. But here we have an account where we can say we don't necessarily believe that. So I'm going to go. Oh, did you ask me?
No, I was going to say, yes, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to move on to the action steps because we cannot stop these pipelines if everyone that is paying attention doesn't help in some way, shape, or form with some of the action steps we need to take. So I'm going to talk about, this is a lot, very Iowa specific, but there is some information for people who are out of state as well. So as I said, thank you to all of our panelists. My name is Jess Mazur. I'm the Conservation Program Coordinator with the Sierra Club Iowa chapter, and I'm a lifelong Iowan. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about these action steps that we have for you. So the very most important thing that you need to know is that these projects are not a done deal. The pipeline companies want us to think that so that we'll all go away and we'll stop raising a fuss. But we're going to do the exact opposite. We are not going to go away. We're not going to believe their lies that these are a done deal. We're going to stand up and we're going to fight back. We have at least a year to organize a united resistance against these pipelines. And we have to stay united because that's our power. Our coalition is really diverse. We're Republicans and Democrats, urban and rural, farmer, environmentalists, Indigenous people, and everyday Iowans. When people from so many different walks of life can come together, and we know this is not a partisan issue. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a right or a wrong issue. This is a moral issue. And what's happening in Iowa right now is just plain wrong. In order to win, we're going to have to step outside of our comfort zones. We're going to have to write letters to the editor, speak out at meetings, talk to our neighbors, And we have to put a whole lot of pressure on our elected officials and our appointed leaders to make sure that they're going to protect us. There are more of us than them. And if we stand together and fight back, we will stop these pipelines. Since the projects were announced late last fall, Iowans have done a fantastic job lobbying their county supervisors to formally object to the pipelines with the Iowa Utilities Board. At least 18 counties on the pipeline routes have formally objected so far. So we have to keep pushing our supervisors to pass objections. So let's get all of the counties on the pipeline routes to formally object. But it doesn't stop there. Earlier this month, the 2022 legislative session began. This is our chance to strengthen Iowa's eminent domain law to help ensure that these projects will not be approved. And it's not going to be easy. A few weeks ago, we started to hear rumbles that Iowa's legislators were going to address our weak eminent domain law. But it's pretty clear that the pipeline companies have been lobbying them hard to buy their votes, buy our state legislators' votes, and they're starting to back down. We have to be louder than these pipeline companies. We elected our state legislators and we can unelect them because there are more of us than them. So let's dig into some of the excuses that we're hearing of why it's not time to pass a bill. And I want to make sure that everyone knows what we're hearing and how to respond to it. So one of the things we're hearing is, this isn't the right time because we shouldn't change the law when there are 2 pending projects in the state. Well, now 3 pending projects in the state. I would challenge that by saying this is exactly the right time to take action to protect Iowans. The threat is here now, and the time to act is now. This is what we elected them to do. If there is a threat, we need our legislators to take action now and not delay. We keep hearing that changing the rules on the use of eminent domain would send a wrong message to the supporters. Supporters? What supporters? I've been reading the objections, I've attended the public meetings, and I've spoken to hundreds of landowners. Nobody wants these pipelines. The only supporters are the people building these pipelines, and I don't care one bit if we change the rules on them in the middle of the process. Companies need to have confidence that Iowa is a great place to do business and that you can count on a stable legal, regulatory, and tax structure. Well, I don't care one bit about ensuring confidence in companies that are threatening to destroy Iowa farmland, put our families in danger, and harm our communities. Our legislators should be instilling confidence in us, the voters, and we want to know that they're willing to stand up to protect their constituents. We've also heard, well, this can be handled later. Why would we wait until it's too late? The time to act is now. The threat is here now. There is no reason to delay this vote. It needs to happen this session. We're also hearing, well, we shouldn't rush this. I agree. That would be fantastic. But unfortunately, the pipeline companies are deciding the timeline right now. We're on their timeline. Legislators should tell these pipeline companies to slow down. We would love it if we didn't have to be in this situation. The next thing we're hearing too is these developers will continue to work cooperatively with landowners. The pipeline companies have yet to work cooperatively with landowners. Working cooperatively with landowners would be recognizing that Iowa doesn't want these pipelines and they should get out. But instead, these pipeline companies continue to harass, intimidate, and bully landowners into signing easements. But guess what? I have yet to talk to a single landowner who supports these projects. So we are winning in the terms of easements. There are more people not signing and very few people signing. So let's focus on the truth. When these legislators try to tell us these excuses, we need to make it clear that we know what the truth is. The truth is that we elect people to protect us in our communities. We elect people to tackle tough issues facing everyday Iowans. We elect people who put people over profits. It is our state legislators' job to make sure that Iowa law protects Iowans. And now is the exact right time to take action to stop eminent domain abuse for these private projects. There is no excuse to avoid taking action on this important issue, and we need elected officials with guts who are willing to stand up for their constituents. This is not the time to get cold feet. This is the time to stand up and fight back, or we're going to elect somebody who will. So we have two very powerful people in the state legislature. Both the House and the Senate have a majority Republicans. So the two top people in each chambers are Republicans. It's House Majority Leader Pat Grassley and Senate President Jake Chapman. The reason we're targeting those two is because since they're the most powerful people in both chambers, they have control over which bills are priority. They can hold up a bill and make sure it doesn't pass, or they can ensure that it is passed. They can also influence other legislators. So basically, they're kind of sitting with the most power up at the Capitol. So we think we need to make sure that these two know that this is a priority for Iowans, and we want them to make it a priority for the entire legislature, for the Senate and the House. So House Majority Leader Pat Grassley is from New Hartford in Butler County. He's a farmer. Senate President Jake Chapman, Adel, Dallas County, is a businessman and an EMT. Both ironically are very pertinent to what we're talking about because we know that these pipelines destroy farmland, and we know that EMTs are majorly at risk if there is a rupture. But we need to remember that to the leaders, to any elected official, the most important thing that legislators care about is being reelected. And we need to make sure they know that this is so important to us that they're vulnerable if they do not come out against these pipelines and help us pass a bill. So we're going to, we have an action alert. We made it really easy for everybody. All you have to do is call that number, and we're going to put that in the chat as well. And it will automatically connect you to Representative Pat Grassley and to Senator Jake Chapman. And it will take you right to their phone number where you can leave a message, or if they answer, you can talk to them. We need to make sure they know that these pipelines are developed and owned by private companies. These pipelines do not have a public use. Eminent domain should not be allowed. And there is no excuse not to take action this legislative session. This is what we elected them to do. For those of you who are out of state, I know we have people outside of Iowa who are tuning in because these pipelines impact other states. We're not 100% sure where your legislative session is at. So we did set something up for you anyways, but it just calls your US Senator to where you can call and make sure that they know that you are against this. And then please get in contact with the organizations in your state that are fighting the pipeline, because they'll be able to give you some of the specific action steps. But we did want to include something for Iowans and for out-of-state folks. But please call that number. I called it and tested it out, and it sends you straight through. And then you'll hang up and you'll call back again to get to the other person. It's very simple, but this is how we're going to stop these pipelines, is we have to be louder than the pipeline companies. We can't let our legislators back out of taking action on these pipelines. And we have to let them know that by calling them today, tomorrow, and every day after that, until we get a commitment that they will pass a bill that does not allow eminent domain for private projects like these.
Jess, can you share the phone numbers out loud for the folks on the phone?
Yes, so the phone number for if you're in Iowa, that phone number is 888-793-4597. If you are out of state, the number is 866-846-4075. And this is just the first of many action steps that we're going to have for everybody throughout the legislative session. But right now, the biggest thing is we have to make sure the two most powerful people at Iowa State House are on board and willing to pass a bill. And then if they're on board, then we can work on getting all of the other legislators and get that bill moving through the process and make sure it passes by the end of this session. So thank you all for joining us this evening. There are a lot of questions that were in the chat. We've been answering those live in writing there, and we'll have some other information in a follow-up piece for everybody. And we'll also have this webinar recorded to send out to everyone. So thank you so much for attending, and we hope you have a good day. And please make those calls. If you hear any good information, you can let us know by sending an email to jessica.mazur@sierraclub.org. And Emma, what's your email that they can email you if they get a good response?
eschmidt, SCHMIT @fwwatch.org. I'll put it in the chat too.
Thank you very much, everybody. And we hope that you have a wonderful evening. And thank you, Dan, for joining us. And thanks to all the panelists as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.